Last September, Tallinn, capital of tiny Estonia, asked its inhabitants to propose ideas on how to spend €1 million of its municipal budget. Residents came up with 132 ideas proposing to add more cycling lanes, build community gardens and playgrounds, and install an outdoor gym. They also asked for more benches and drinking fountains. This month, everyone aged above 14 was called to vote on these ideas to decide which project they want to implement in their district. Wondering what this process is? Here's the name: participatory budgeting. Participatory budgeting is becoming some sort of buzzword in democratic circles. More and more European cities are adopting the idea, civil society organizations are pushing for it. But what exactly is participatory budgeting? Well, it's the shared decision between local government and citizens on how to spend a part of the municipal budget. In practice, cities ask their inhabitants to decide where to invest their money. So, how does it work? There's no one-size-fits-all. Every city can use a different approach to participatory budgeting, but there are some common aspects to the process. The first step is always organization and planning. Cities need to decide how they want to give a voice to the residents and what percentage of the budget will be dedicated to citizen initiatives. They also need to inform their inhabitants to make sure that people will actually participate. During the second phase, citizens come up with ideas and negotiate with government players to decide where to allocate local resources. And the third step is implementation. The city takes note of what citizens ask for and makes sure that these projects are carried out. Let's take Tallinn, for instance. In August, the City Council started to prepare the participatory budgeting process. In September, residents were called to submit their ideas. In October and November, these ideas were evaluated and selected for their feasibility by an expert committee. And in the first half of December, citizens were called to vote on the initiative they wanted for their district. Finally, next year, the city will implement the most supported project for each district. Tallinn is a good example of how participatory budgeting works. However, in other cities, the process can take longer. For instance, Helsinki has a 2-year-long participatory budgeting program that includes workshops to discuss and improve citizen initiatives. The way in which people participate also changes from one city to another. Most municipalities now have a hybrid in-person and online approach, but digital participation is on the rise, and more cities rely on digital tools. Tallinn, for instance, uses an online platform for voting. The scope of the exercise can also change. Lisbon, the French city of Reims, and Lublin in Poland have decided to dedicate a share of their budget to green initiatives only, in an effort to mitigate climate change. And even in those cities where there is no dedicated green budget, residents call for projects to make their city environmentally friendly, like cycling lanes and planting trees. And in doing so, they also contribute to the green transition on a very local level. One of the reasons why cities are increasingly reaching for this tool is it gives local governments a good idea of what their inhabitants expect their city to look like. City leaders also believe that giving a say to their inhabitants increases active citizenship and trust in policy making. However, these participatory processes depend on political will. Civil society organizations warn that these tools can suffer leadership changes, especially if new elections bring to power leaders reluctant to hand over decision-making. Meanwhile, European institutions are becoming more aware of participatory budgeting and its potential to reinforce democracy and active citizenship. Through Horizon 2020, the EU finances research and experiments on citizen engagement and participatory budgeting. And while this has so far been mostly implemented at city level, some even propose to scale it up at European level, giving a say to citizens on how to spend a share of the EU budget. In a resolution approved last July, the European Parliament said it proposes the introduction of citizen participation mechanisms for pilot projects, including participatory budgeting, to allow the shaping of the expenditure side of the Union's budget and crowdsourcing to enable citizens to be involved in the co-creation of policies with EU decision makers. While many activists and policymakers welcome participatory budgeting with enthusiasm, academics warn against some risks. They say that the process is time-consuming and often lacks inclusiveness. Research conducted in Germany, for instance, showed that most participants were well-educated and affluent middle-aged men. And while digitalization can help widen the pool of participants, it also risks excluding those without the access and skills to take part in online deliberations. Experts also argue that not all citizens are interested in having a say, especially in matters that don't touch them personally. On top of this, communities struggling to make a living often don't have the time or means to engage in policymaking. So, despite growing interest in participatory budgeting, questions remain whether it will actually give a voice to the voiceless or amplify those voices we're already hearing.